And then we have our 3D text hello. Put that in. So for this, you also do not have to expand it. I'm just going to move this over just a little bit. So the only thing I find with the 3D objects is if you have a solid color, once it makes it 3D, the lighting is very minimal, so you won't get the whole 3D look here. So it's a little too illegible. We could possibly change the ambient light is not changing it a whole lot. If you wanted, you could do the wireframe. I think the wireframe is always kind of a cool look depending on what you're going for, but let's go back to no shading. Let's go cancel, and what we're going to do is we're actually going to add a white stroke around it. So when it goes to extrude it, it is going to be using the white as the outside layer and then the black as the middle fill layer. So let's go back to extrude and bevel. And there we go, that's already looking pretty good. So if you kind of want to move it around in 3D space, you can use this square right here to just kind of move it around. You can also use these sliders here, or you can type it in if you know the angles that you want it at. But just for now, I'm just going to use this to kind of put it into a position that I like, kind of like the other one. And that's looking pretty good. And then this would be the surface, so the lighting of everything. You can kind of play around with this, just like go through the different ones. I already showed you the wireframe. This one has no shading, so obviously with the white background you can't tell the difference, but if we had a different background color, it would almost be like a 3D colored in 2D. Let's just keep it to the plastic shading. So ambient light is how much light is there to light up the scene. You can turn it up a little bit. I'm happy with that. And I'm going to leave everything else as it is. But you guys can just play around and see what you come up with. Honestly, the more you play around inside the program and just experiment with new effects, experiment with different ideas, the more you're going to learn and the better you will be able to build onto your ideas and your, in the end, your portfolio. So this repetition one is super cool. I do highly recommend you guys play around with this tool. It's super cool. You can do it with shapes. You can make a certain path and tell these certain shapes to follow that path. So for this one, we're just going to do the repetition. I'm only going to type rep because I'm too lazy to write out repetition. And we're going to go ahead and duplicate that. So Control-C-V. I don't really care if it pastes in place because I will be moving it. So put that there. I do believe because this will be our front one, we do need to put it in the front. So hitting Control, arrange, and then bring to front. So let's also change the colors here. I am a big fan of a gradient from yellow to red. I will actually keep the stroke on because it's a little illegible without the stroke. The yellow, like the first couple repetitions of yellow, just kind of blend together and it makes it a little harder to read. So we're going to want this to be able to read. So we're going to put it down to 0.25, so it's just enough to see the distinction but not interfere with the color too much. And then we'll just go to this red, swap it. It's a horrible red. I'm cool with that. And we're going to turn down the stroke on this one as well. I don't really like this yellow either. Let's change that. Let's add more saturation to it. Select them both. Actually, you don't even need them selected quite yet. We're going to go down to Object and Blend. We're first going to go into Blend Options just to see what's going on. I usually stick to the specific steps. So this way you can tell how many times you want to repeat. So looking at this one over here, I believe it was 25 steps, so that was maybe a little too much. So now let's try 15 and see where we're at. So after you hit OK, you're actually going to have to go back to Object and then Blend and then hit Make. So that's looking pretty cool. You can get some pretty cool repetition and patterns going on here. Just really like those colors together. And then if you really wanted to say this is not exactly the angle you want, you can double click and then highlight the one that I want. And let's move it over and then see it will still stay on that path. And for the final one, text on a path, pretty easy. Let's start a new artboard here. And first let's make our object. And just holding Alt and Shift, I'm just going to make a perfect circle here. So here's our object. And then we're going to go over to our type tool and click and hold. You'll see the type on a path here. So let's go ahead and just click on the path, which is our circle, and it will put in our placeholder text, and let's just type in. So it cuts off a little bit. I'm just going to go ahead and scale down the font because it's a little big anyway. And then we can go in here, I believe it is. And then we can swing it around. If we want it on the inside, we can actually just push it and you will see it go on the inside. And then there we go. So maybe we want to, it's kind of reading it the wrong way, but let's bring it back out. Uh-oh. Interesting. Alright, we're just going to leave that actually. Just play around, see what you get. You could try like a different pen tool, and we can just quickly draw a bit of a curved line here. We'll finish that off. We don't really need to actually see any of it. And then let's go back to this. Ride the line all the way. I'm just going to show you guys the characters here. So let's just keep that lorem ipsum. So we got this placeholder text here. And then if we say you just kind of want to edit the text a little bit, this character will be your go-to. So here we can change the font. It's also up here, but the character will give you more options here. So this is the font size. Obviously, this will be the leading. So here, say I copy that. Say these are a little too close together. I want them a little bit closer, even though I probably wouldn't. The leading here will adjust that. Maybe we want them all connected. Let's space that back out. This is the tracking, so this will be how far each letter is distanced from each other. So you can just play around with that. Sometimes having a wider tracking will look better for titles if you're trying to be cinematic or anything. Sometimes you want them closer and tighter together. This will be the vertical scale, so say you want it to be a lot taller text, you can change that. We'll put back to 100. And then also the horizontal scale. So if you want them to be very wide, a wide set of letters, then you can change that up as well. But that is all I have for you guys today. Now I want you to go ahead and try these, but put your own unique spin on them. Try something new, just kind of browse the different effects. Anything in the distort, stylize, or warp will probably give you something pretty interesting. And also just try playing around with the mask or the outline of each letter and kind of change it up to make it your own.